we just got a ton of new move updates that will shake up things in PvP a lot with the new Hidden Gems season, and a few of these also have major implications for raiding as well. So join me as we analyze all of these updates in our GBL season breakdown. Welcome back, everyone. After the Rising Heroes GBL season update was really mediocre a few months ago, we've got another big update this season with new moves, move buffs, and a lot of Pokemon getting different move additions, so let's get into things. Starting off, we've got two brand new moves being Leafage and Liquidation. With Leafage, it's yet another grass fast move, but this one has different stats than the others, being a grass type bullet punch, having 6 power and 7 energy. This is pretty good, but not top tier. Less energy gain than Bullet Seed and Vine Whip, but more power than those moves, and more energy gain than Magical Leaf and Razor Leaf. As for who gets this move, well, Snover and Abomasnow get this move, which will allow Abomasnow to run a strong grass fast move that still generates energy, unlike Razor Leaf, though I'm sure Powder Snow will still be the better move for it. Fomantis and Lurantis also get this move, giving them slightly less energy gain, but more punch, resulting in a decent buff for them, though the two are still pretty frail, so they won't do too good. And the big one comes with Rowlet, Dartrix, and Decidueye getting Leafage. Now I don't think Rowlet and Dartrix will be too impressive outside of some cups like the Little and Evolution Cup, but for Decidueye, this is exactly what it needed. Many wanted it to get Shadow Claw, and while it didn't get that, Leafage will still be a solid choice for it. But Decidueye will really become a meta player when it eventually gets its Community Day and gets Frenzy Plant. Until then, it'll be usable, but rather niche. Moving on, we have Liquidation, which is a charged move with 70 power, 45 energy, and has a 30% chance to decrease the opponent's defense by 1 stage. This move is pretty good as well, essentially being a clone of the move Crunch. Golduck, Dugong, Cloyster, Vaporeon, Armaldo, Floatzel, Samurott, Beartick, and Golisopod will all receive this move. Will it do much for any of them though? Well, Dugong we'll talk about later because it gets another move, but for the others, most of them it'll be pretty minor, but none will become super good. I think Cloyster and Beartick will appreciate it a little bit, but then there's Golisopod, a Pokemon who had horrible moves when it first debuted, but now, it's got Shadow Claw for fast move pressure, and Liquidation to finally give it some punch in its charged moves. With Shadow Claw, X-Scissor, and Liquidation, it'll definitely be able to carve a place for itself in the meta, especially in limited formats. But next, let's talk about move nerfs and buffs, and it's almost all buffs this season. Up first we have Rollout, which had its energy nerfed last year so Dunsparce and Miltank wouldn't be too spammy, but without compensating it with extra damage, the move was pretty bad. Now though, the extra damage makes it a Snarl clone, which is actually a solid move, and thus, these two will see a little bit more use, which is nice. Next we have a Poison Fang buff, which is actually one that I asked for specifically last season. Nidoqueen was a pretty oppressive force before the Poison Fang nerf, so the nerf made sense, making it far less spammy, but it hurt Nidoqueen too much, with its overall damage going way down, with it relying on those defense debuffed poison jabs. Now though, it's still 40 energy, so less spammy, but Poison Fang does a little more damage, which helps offset the poison jab damage that it was missing out on. I don't think this will make Nidoqueen full meta again, but it will definitely be more prevalent, which I actually think is healthy for the meta. Another move who had its energy nerfed but is now having its power buffed is Icicle Spear, which at 65 power is now a Surf clone. I think this buff was a little less necessary, but I also don't think Walrein is going to be too good because of this, so I'm okay with it. And as we'll talk about, Walrein is going to have some more competition. Another damage buff we're seeing comes with Seed Bomb, which now does 60 damage. However, this move is also getting a nerf with its energy cost increasing to 45 energy, making it similar to Wrap. This is effectively a nerf to Trevenant, making it a Pokemon who can't shoot out Seed Bomb every 5 Shadow Claws. The damage buff helps, but overall, this is a nerf to the Spooky Tree, but it will also have an effect on another Pokemon that we'll talk about later on. And for our last buff, it's yet another damage buff with Mud Bomb, which also gets 5 more power. This really isn't the hugest buff out there, but Toxicroak, Whiscash, and Unova Stunfisk will all enjoy this. I would like to see Unova Stunfisk get a stronger closer move like Thunder, but that's a discussion for another day. We do have one other Pokemon who gets this move, but we'll talk about them later. So we've talked new moves and buffs, But what sort of existing moves are being spread to new Pokemon? Well, there's a lot, but let's start with Alolan Sandslash who gets Drill Run, and this is a move I'm really excited for. I ran Alolan Sandslash a lot this past season and it was really fun to use, but the biggest drawback for it was that Bulldoze was too expensive at 60 energy. This move has the same 80 power as Bulldoze, but it's 15 energy cheaper, which will be huge for it against Pokemon like Bastiodon and Galarian Stunfisk, so this is a Pokemon who will show up a lot more thanks to Drill Run. Next up we have Clefable who gets Fairy Wind, and this is arguably the Pokemon who wanted Fairy Wind the most, having two pretty good charged moves, Meteor Mash and Psychic, but Charm with its abysmal energy gains really didn't get to those moves very often. Now though, it'll make much better use of those moves, and it'll be a big new player in the Ultra League, I think. And speaking of fairies, we've got Wigglytuff who gets Disarming Voice, and this is another great addition. Wigglytuff has always been a pretty good charmer in the Great League, but Disarming Voice gives it a cheaper charged move to take the place of Play Rough. Not going to make it a huge player, but it's another good addition. And next we return to Dewgong, who gets a huge glow up this season with the new Liquidation and Drill Run. So now you can run Legacy Ice Shard for the fast move, along with any combination of Drill Run, Liquidation, and Legacy Icy Wind. I do think Icy Wind and Drill Run will likely be the best, offering the best overall coverage similar to Wall Rain, but having the option to use Liquidation is great too, especially if you don't have a Dewgong with Legacy Icy Wind. It'll be a new meta threat for sure, and it'll give Wall Rain a run for its money. Dewgong will be less spammy, but have more utility. Up next is Togetic, who much to our delight gets Fairy Wind. Now in the Great League, Togetic is pretty bulky, so it's always had PvP potential, just lacking a good fast move, and Fairy Wind is just that. It'll still be a niche pick without a better new charged move, but it'll definitely have some use now, so I'm thankful for that. And now we return to Mud Bomb, who has been given to Quagsire as well, and this is a pretty good buff too. Quagsire has always enjoyed niche use, but now it has a cheaper charged move that it can fire off, so it'll make more appearances in the Open League, along with various cups, like the Weather Cup. Now this next one is really big for raids. Tyranitar gets Hydreigon's Community Day move, Brutal Swing. In PvP, this will make Tyranitar a little bit better in the Master League, but it's huge in raids. Normal Tyranitar with Brutal Swing will sit just under Hydreigon as a dark attacker. Worse, but still very good, but Shadow Tyranitar and the upcoming Mega Tyranitar will be the best dark attackers, no contest. If you have a Shadow Tyranitar, Bite and Brutal Swing will make for an incredible combo. Enough said. Next up we've got Cradily, who gets Rock Slide. Now Cradily has always had a strong showing in Cups, but now it'll have even more room to be used in the Open Leagues, and it'll be even better in certain Cups, having a cheaper move to use. Mystical Fire also sees some distribution this season on Drifblim and Litwick. For Litwick, it'll be a new tool for it to use in the Little Cup, but nothing huge. And for Drifblim, it'll be a fire alternative to Icy Wind, but a really nice one, letting it threaten steel types like Galarian Stunfisk and Registeel much better. Up next, Probopass receives Zap Cannon, which gives it some more power, but honestly, this isn't a huge buff. Not really something I see being too big outside of some limited formats, but it's nice. Our one legendary update comes with Heatran, who gets Earth Power, and while this is very nice coverage, it's still not what Heatran needed. Heatran really needs Incinerate or something cheaper. Seed Bomb will be added to Whimsicott, which is another decent addition to it, giving it something cheaper to use with Fairy Wind and Moonblast, but obviously, it's not as cheap as it could have been with it now being a 45 energy move. Now the next one is a bit bigger than you may think, with Emolga getting Acrobatics. Emolga has pretty average bulk, but the electric flying typing is great, and Acrobatics gives Emolga the strong closer move it really needed. This will make Emolga a lot more usable, being able to take on Trevenant and a variety of flying and fighting types. Overall, I think it'll have a decent showing in the Open Great League. Next up, Primarina gets a nice buff with the addition of Disarming Voice, the cheapest fairy charged move we have currently. This will be great for Charm Primarina in the Master League and Master Premier Cup, where it has a cheaper move to get to. I expect it'll be much bigger in Master Premier overall. And lastly, we have Ursaluna, who gets Ice Punch. This is the best of the elemental punches coverage-wise, which is great for it in the Master League, but I do think Ursaluna still needs a better fast move. If they don't want to give it Shadow Claw or Counter, I get it, but Lick would help it a ton in the Master and Master Premier Cups. Still, this is a good addition. So with all these buffs and new move additions, what do I think the new meta will look like? Well, obviously it's hard to predict everything, but I think a ton of these updates let Pokemon counter common meta Pokemon like Noctowl, Trevenant, Bastiodon, and Lantern. Cradily, for example, can now handle the more common Noctowl Lantern core that I saw a ton of this past season. Pokemon like Emolga, Dugong, Walrein, and Alolan Sandslash will be pretty big this season as well, with even Nidoqueen making a small comeback, I think. But I do also think Medicham will largely be unaffected by a lot of these changes and will remain pretty big. Fighting in general will rise up a decent bit with the various ice types and Cradily being buffed. The Ultra League I don't think will be too affected, but again, more Walrein and Alolan Sandslash and less Trevenant, along with some like Clefable being more used. And in the Master League, not really too much. Master Premier will be a bit different though, with Primarina and Ursaluna having stronger roles. But that just about wraps up this seasonal GBL update, and it's been a long one. I am really happy to see so many great updates here, both to shake up the meta, and also to let many more Pokemon see more use like Togetic. What are your thoughts on this season's GBL updates though? Any specific buffs or additions you're most excited for? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming videos. We'll have new Pokemon analyses and cup guides as the new ones come out, so stay tuned. Until next time though, thanks so much for watching and good luck this season. Take care.